Hello everyone, welcome back. JavaMentor.net here. In today's video, let's learn about one-to-one, many-to-one, and many-to-one annotations. So in one of the previous videos, we learned about one-to-many annotation, which goes like this, and it says one book can have many authors. And in our case, we want to say one book can have one author, right? And for that reason, here we only have one author. And if you take a look at the database, after this one-to-one annotation, if you take a look at the book, you will see author ID. So every book will have author ID. That's the result of one-to-one annotation. In the author, you don't have any indication of the book at all. You might ask, okay, but we already learned about embedded here and embeddables. We learned about this in one of the previous videos. How is this embeddable different than one-to-one? It's different because if you have this author is entity. So if you have entity, then you need to use one-to-one. If you have embeddable, then you need to use embedded here. And that's everything regarding one-to-one. Let's go to many-to-one. Now the next thing is, let's say that we want that one book has many authors. We already had that situation in the past. Just the issue is, in the past, we wanted to have a reference from the book to authors. So we wanted to say book.getAuthors, but now we want to go in opposite direction. We want from the author to get author.getBook. And for that reason, we have this many-to-one annotation. We are saying many authors can write one book, and we have reference to that book here. And if we try to see the database model is slightly different than it was when we used one-to-many annotation. Okay, this is how the database model looks like. Inside the book, you don't have any indications of the author, but every single author has a book ID. In our case, book ID is a composite key that is composed of ISBN and title, and that's the reason why we have those two fields here. And this is how the data looks like if we have one book that is written by two authors. So inside the book, you have the information about that book, nothing else. There is nothing about author, and inside the author you have two authors. So there is Mark, and he wrote this book, and there is also John, which wrote the exactly same book. That's basically many-to-one. Now, we showed unidirectional relations, but what if we want bidirectional? So what if we want to go from book to authors and from author to the book? Well, that's possible as well. Here you put one-to-many annotation, and inside the author you put many-to-one. So you just combine both of those annotations. Very important thing is that on the side of the book you have those two methods for adding and removing authors. Why is this very important? Because when you want to add author, first of all you want to add author to that list, but then you want to set the book for that author, and book is the current object where we are reciting this. And the same thing when removing author. You want to remove from the list, from this one-to-many to list, and you want to remove that book from the author. So you are setting null to that book. And the last thing regarding this bidirectional, I showed the simplest way. There are a lot of small tweaks and tricks, and this is not an optimal solution at all. I'm just showing you that bidirectional relation is possible. but there are plenty of things that can be improved here. The last important thing to notice is when you try to remove author from this list, how will Java or JPA realize which author to remove? I mean, which fields will be important? Will it look only by ID or ID and name, or what will be the, criteria for comparison? We are removing from the list, right? So it has to do something with Java, because list is Java thing. It has nothing to do with JPA. And in Java, when you want to compare things, you use equals. And if you remember properly, when you override equals, you need to override hash code as well. You can go back 20-30 tutorials where we talked about equals and rewatch that video again. So if we are removing author like this, we would like to override properly equals and hash code here in the author. So equals and hash code, and then you want to say which fields will be included in equals. So let's say that equals, two authors are equal if their ID is equal. Okay. Now we have equals and hash code, and now this is working properly. Let's just show the database model after those two annotations. So if we take a look at the author has the data about book. I mean, it has only book ID. If we require author, and of course when we fetch author, book needs to be fetched as well, that means that we will go author join book, and for join we will use those two fields. On the other hand, if we want to fetch book and its authors from one-to-many list, well, that will be done in the same fashion how it was done when only one-to-many annotation was present. So we will use all of those three tables. Also, I don't want to forget to say that those to-one annotations, so one-to-one and many-to-one, they have fetch type default to eager. So by default, author will fetch this book as well. Contrary to one-to-many and many-to-many, those two annotations, so let's say one-to-many, they have fetch type set to lazy by default. Of course, you can define fetch here in both eager or lazy. So just to know that defaults are not the same. And the last thing is we want to say about many-to-many. And the last important annotations from those one-to-many, many-to-many is many-to-many annotation. This means that when you see this many-to-many annotation, it means that one book can be written by many authors, but also one author can write many books. In our previous case, so when we had one-to-many here inside the book, we had one-to-many authors. That means that one book can be written by multiple authors, but one author can only write one book. So it wasn't possible in that model that one author write multiple books. In our current scenario, it's possible, many to many. Now you may ask, okay, but why do we put this many to many here inside the author? Why we don't create list of authors here and then put many to many annotation there? Well, that is a choice. Like, do you need a relation from the author to the book? In that case, you're putting this many to many here. If you need vice versa relation, so if you want to go from the book to the authors, then you will put many to many annotation here. And if you start this application just to see how the database model looks like, well, author and book will look normal. So author does not have any info about book. Book does not have any info about author, and there is one aggregation table. Aggregation table which says this author wrote this book. So it's basically, this table is only consisted of ID of the author and ID of the book. This author wrote this book. And then you can have multiple combinations here. You can have 5 books and only one author. So author ID 11111 and ISBN 12345. Or you can have vice versa. So the different authors write the same book. And that's basically it regarding all of those important annotations. It's important to realize which fetch type is default. So on some of them it's lazy, on some of them it's eager. Also regarding bidirectional relationships, I would recommend you, if you really want to learn more, this article, The Best Way to Map a One-to-Many Relationship with JPA and Hibernate. Again, I'm recommending this Vlad Michalcea, really great blog. Just a warning, this article is complex, and if you try hard, you will understand it. That is my experience with the beginners, with my students. You will realize this, but unfortunately, if you don't use this, you will forget this very fast. But it's interesting to know all of those small tweaks that will improve performance and why those tweaks will improve performance. Also, you will notice few other annotations here, for example, this orphan removal or this mapped by, and so on and so on. You can take a look and realize what those things are doing. That would be everything for this video. See you in the next video.